Okay, picture this. You wake up tomorrow morning, turn on the news, and find out that every grocery store in your area has closed indefinitely. Could you and your family eat well for the next 2 weeks? It's a pretty sobering question, right? But it's an absolutely crucial one. Welcome to our explainer today, where we're going to map out the journey of preparedness. So let's dive right into this together. Today, we're demystifying the whole process. We're going to break down exactly how you can build, store, and maintain a proper emergency food stockpile. Because the goal here isn't just to blindly hoard a bunch of cans in your basement. It's about doing it intelligently, so you don't waste your hard-earned money or, risk foodborne illness when things are already incredibly stressful. Here's a quick look at our roadmap. We'll be hitting on how to plan your supply, the difference between short and long-term prep, maximizing shelf life, utilizing the first-in, first-out method, and exactly what to do to survive a power outage. Let's get started. First up, planning your emergency supply. This is all about building a rock-solid foundation. When you're putting together a survival stockpile, it's really not just about sheer bulk. It's about specific, calculated needs. Hydration is hands down the most important thing. You've got to plan for a minimum, and I mean an absolute minimum, of 2 quarts of liquids, like water or juice, per person per day. Next, you have to think about calories based on actual physical activity. If you're going to be doing heavy manual tasks during an emergency, you'll need way more energy. And hey, do not forget family preferences. Storing food your family actually likes prevents flavor fatigue and keeps morale high. To build on those pillars, you need to literally sit down and write out a plan. Look at every single member of your household. Who has food allergies? Does anyone require a specific diet? You should aim to map out at least one well-balanced meal a day that hits all the macros, carbohydrates, proteins, and healthy fats. And please account for the most vulnerable members of your family, like pets and infants. Finally, figure out how you'll store all of this in sustainable, food-grade containers. Actually, you know what? You could have all the food in the world, but if you can't open it or cook it safely, you're out of luck. So your planning must include non-food essentials. Think about it. A manual can opener is a literal lifesaver. You'll also want disposable plates and utensils so you aren't wasting precious drinking water on doing the dishes. Throw in a food thermometer and some waterproof matches and you're good to go. These tools are just as critical as the calories themselves. Moving right along to section 2, short and long-term prep. There are basically 2 different tiers of readiness we need to look at. So what's the difference? Well, a short-term, 3-day kit is all about immediate, grab-and-go survival. It needs to be compact, lightweight, and packed with ready-to-eat canned goods or MREs, meals ready to eat. You want stuff that requires 0 cooking and 0 extra water. On the flip side, your long-term supply is a whole different ballgame. That's where you rely on bulk staples, things like unmilled wheat, dry milk, and dried beans. These are incredibly cheap and last forever, but the catch is they demand that you actually have the water, the cooking equipment, and the know-how to prepare them. Okay, section 3, maximizing food shelf life. Let's dig into the actual science of storage. Before we even look at expiration dates, we have to talk about food safety, specifically with staples like dried beans. Have you ever heard of cyanogens? Get this, they are sugars with a cyanide component that are naturally found in raw beans. Yeah, natural cyanide. If you eat them raw, an enzyme inhibitor in the beans can actually cause serious nutritional deficiencies, and the cyanogens can literally be toxic in large amounts. But don't panic, the fix is super simple. Proper soaking and thorough cooking completely destroys the enzyme and breaks down the toxicity, making them perfectly safe and really nutritious. So just how long can we safely hang on to these items? The differences are kind of mind-blowing. Things like unmilled wheat, corn, white rice, or those dried beans we just talked about, if you store them in optimal conditions, they can last an incredible 25 to 30 years. Meanwhile, everyday pantry stuff like dry pasta usually tops out around 2 years. And high-fat items like peanut butter, those max out at about 9 months before they start going rancid. So yeah, don't count on that ancient jar of peanut butter in the back of your cupboard tasting very good in an emergency. Let's look at non-fat dried milk for a second. This is a prime example of how temperature totally dictates shelf life. If you keep it in a cool environment, it's going to easily last you 3 to 5 years. But if you toss it out in a hot, stuffy garage, that shelf life plummets to just 3 months. Plus, research shows that while the calories and protein stay pretty stable, the essential vitamins in dried milk actually start degrading after just 18 months. The takeaway here? Storage conditions are everything.
We also need to clear up some of the confusing jargon on food packaging to save you from unnecessary food waste. A sell-by date? That's simply for the grocery store's display purposes. The food is usually perfectly fine for days or even weeks after that. A use-by date generally just indicates peak quality, not immediate spoilage. But listen up, because there is one critical exception: infant formula. Federal regulations mandate a strict use-by date for baby formula because those essential nutrients degrade rapidly after that specific day. Never, ever use infant formula past its printed date. All right, moving into Section 4. This is all about the first-in, first-out method, or as it's commonly known, FIFO.
I want you to think of your home pantry exactly like a grocery store aisle. To make the FIFO method work, you just follow 3 really simple steps. First, grab a permanent marker and clearly write the purchase date on every single item. Second, organize your shelves by shoving all the brand new items all the way to the back. Third, pull your older items to the front so they are the very first things you naturally grab when you're making dinner. It's so easy, but it totally prevents spoilage, waste, and flavor fatigue.
Now, to keep FIFO running smoothly, you've got to have a maintenance schedule. Make it a strict habit to audit your entire stockpile every 6 months. Just go in there, completely remove any expired goods, update your written inventory checklists, and strategically move any items that are nearing their expiration dates right up into your kitchen for immediate use.
And finally, Section 5, surviving a power outage. What do you do when the power actually fails?
The lights just flickered and went out. The fridge stops humming. What now? Well, your family has to follow a very specific execution order to avoid massive food waste. Step 1, eat the highly perishable foods from your refrigerator first. Step 2, once the fridge is cleared out, move on to the frozen foods in your freezer. But make sure you're keeping that door closed as much as humanly possible. Step 3, only when both of those are totally exhausted do you finally break into your non-perishable pantry staples.
So the big question is, how do you know when the food in that warming freezer is actually still safe to eat? The magic number you absolutely need to remember is 40 degrees Fahrenheit. If your freezer has maintained an internal temperature of 40 degrees or lower, you are good to go. The food is safe. Also, if you check a frozen item and it still has hard ice crystals remaining right in the center, it's still perfectly safe to consume or even to refreeze for later. Now, when you finally have to cook those frozen items or your pantry staples without any electricity, safety is just absolutely paramount. You can totally use camp stoves or charcoal grills, but they must, and I mean must, be used outdoors only to prevent deadly carbon monoxide buildup. And a quick note on those indoor candle warmers or chafing dishes: they are fine for heating up an already cooked can of soup, but never, ever use them to try and cook raw meats or eggs. They just do not get hot enough to kill the bacteria. Well, we've covered a lot today. The planning, the wild science behind shelf life, the rotation methods, and how to execute during a crisis. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. When was the very last time you checked the dates on the food hiding way in the back of your pantry? Go on, take 10 minutes today just to go look. Use this explainer as your catalyst and start building your family's preparedness journey right now.